Hey, have you ever heard of the term watermelon project? Well, it means green on the outside and red on the inside. And I'll add my own spin. It's filled with seeds of distrust because those type of projects will erode stakeholder confidence. Watermelon projects can gain you the wrong kinds of attention too. And unfortunately, somebody, many times your key team members, will see it coming, but they're going to duck and delay until that hidden danger rears up to bite you. The information that never made it into the status reports now reveals itself, delivering unexpected shock. Interestingly enough, if you go through some of PMI's published case studies with quotes from project managers at companies like Barclays and GSK, and even a story from someone who had exactly 3 minutes to brief a board of directors, you'll see the results of watermelon projects. And almost every failure traces back to the same root cause. It's a status report that says everything is fine right up until the week it very suddenly isn't. There's no warning, no buildup, just green, 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 and then a crisis. So let's help you to avoid this embarrassing or worse situation. We'll do a quick review on what makes a status report useful, what items you cannot skip, filtering the information that fits the audience, whether dashboards or written reports are actually a win, and 4 real stories about getting this badly wrong. So there's root cause hiding deeper, and we're going to look at that next. This is interesting. Bad status reports are written from the project manager's point of view. What I did this week, what I tracked, what I know. But good status reports are read from the recipient's point of view. What does this person need to decide or do right now? Building your status reports from here's what I'm giving you to here's what you need is a difference between a report that gets read in action and the one that may likely get ignored. So what is it that you certainly need to include no matter who's reading it? Well, think of it as 6 things you need in your status reports. 1, an overall health indicator. The color, the rating, whatever you use, it's the first thing that anyone sees before they decide whether to read further. Sort of a bottom line up front. 2, schedule status. How is it tracking against the original baseline? Not against this week's quietly revised version of the plan. Oh, and you did create a baseline, didn't you? 3, budget status. This should be its own rating, separate from schedule. A project can be green on budget and red on schedule at the exact same time. If you mash those into one color, you're hiding information, not simplifying it. 4, key risks, stated honestly. And remember, once a risk occurs, it's not a risk anymore, it's an issue to be managed. The status report should convey that shift. 5, what's changed since the last report? New risks, scope changes, decisions that need to be made. A status update with 0 context isn't really useful, even if it's accurate. And 6, what you need from the reader. This one can get skipped, but it's arguably the most important because the report is more than just an update. It's also the tool you can use to tell people what the project needs from them and by when. So in summary, 4 questions. Where are we? Where should we be? What's in the way? And what do we need from you? So status reports visually are audience dependent. Detailed task lists are great for a team lead, but likely unwanted by a CEO. Burn rate charts and resource utilization can be what a sponsor watching budget closely wants to see, but can miss the mark for executives. A full risk register with every single risk logged in detail is something a steering committee might want to see, but others may prefer a summary, severity rating. The level of detail should match how close the reader is to the actual scope delivery, and not just how much detail you happen to have available. So here's a story to illustrate. There was a new PM in their very first project management role. They wanted to make a great first impression, of course, so they built this elaborate weekly chart for leadership. It had burn rates for in-house time and vendor hours, tasks completed, every issue, every risk, color-coded, graphed out, quite a full package. So on their first week, they presented it to the project team. They nodded politely, no questions. He takes that as well done, man. It also goes to his manager, plus the project supervisor, who's a senior VP. No response that week as well. And the second week, same report, same format, no responses. Third week, same thing, nothing. Fourth week, still nothing, but he gets invited to a meeting with his manager. She looks at the report and says basically, well, why are you showing me all of this? I expect you to keep track of it yourself. All I need is a monthly email telling me if the vendor is doing what their proposal said so I can approve the invoice. That's all she wanted. One sentence a month. You see, status reports are not for the author, therefore whoever's reading them. The only way to actually know what that means is to ask first instead of over-guessing and over-delivering. A tip to enact this is when you send your first status report to different audiences where you have no idea what level of detail they need, add a line to the email asking for clarification on the report. Invite them to reply back with guidance on what it is that's important to them. Simple. Now here's a question people ask frequently. Is it dashboards or written reports? Which one's actually better? And of course the honest answer is it's not really a competition because they solve two different problems. Dashboards are built for speed. It is real time and current as possible with a date and time reference so the audience knows how current it is. If a CEO is tracking 12 different projects, they cannot read 12 narratives, but they can absolutely scan 12 colored tiles in about 10 seconds. One executive quote on this is almost blunt about it. It says, senior leadership is all about dashboards because it lets them spot blockers fast enough to actually act and do something. Now here's what a dashboard generally cannot do. It can show you that the schedule slipped, but it cannot easily tell you why or what's being done about it or what decision is needed. That only really lives in the written report. And interestingly enough, there's a more uncomfortable argument for written reports. PMI's own interviewees connect long, messy reports directly to the authors being confused project managers. You know, if you can't explain your status in a few plain sentences, that's not a writing problem. That's often a sign you don't really have a handle on the project yet. So the real answer that experienced people land on is a layered system. It's a short color-coded summary at the very top. That's basically a mini dashboard with a link through to deeper detail for anyone who wants to keep going. Now, one program manager built exactly this for a 150-person team. It was a quick color-coded layer up top, full detail underneath for whoever needed it. That technique was best of both worlds for that project and with those stakeholders. Speed for the people who needed the headline and depth for the people who need to act on it. Okay, given all of that, what order should a report actually be in? Well, there's strong agreement on this across multiple sources. 1, the health indicator, first thing before any reading is required. 2, an executive summary, a handful of sentences and some guidance, cap it at maybe 6 sentences. 3, progress since the last report, framed as outcomes and not activity. For example, completed testing on the payment module. That's way more worth it than worked on the payment module. And 4, schedule and milestones. 5, budget. 6, risks and issues with what's already being done about them. And 7, the next steps and specific asks with an owner and a deadline attached to each one. And here's the reason the health indicator goes first, because instead of building up to it, and there's actually eye tracking research behind this, people concentrate almost all their attention at the top of the document and skim the rest. So don't leave anything important for the end. That's the opposite of how most of us are taught to write, which is a form of storytelling. Build the context, then land the punchline. In a status report, you have to flip that. And one more story to bring this all together. An engineering leader was asked to brief a CEO and the full executive team on a serious multi-week incident, something involving outside agencies and real consequences. Well, he got an email beforehand from the CEO's assistant, and it says, you have from 1:35 to 1:38 for your update, then 2 minutes for questions. So that's 3 minutes for weeks of work. He said it was terrifying, but it forced him to figure out exactly what belonged in that briefing. What he landed on was 4 things. First, overall status in 2 or 3 sentences. 1 specific highlight, such as someone on the team doing great work. The 1 or 2 biggest risks, if there's something the executives really need to know. And 1 specific ask, if there is one. That's it. No Gantt chart, no risk log, no, let me walk through this and tell you how we got here. The point is this, that lack of detail can feel uncomfortable, like you're not proving that you know what you're doing. The experienced senior move, though, is trusting that you don't have to prove it. Executives aren't grading your effort. They're trying to figure it out in the next few seconds. They need to know whether they need to do anything. So pulling all of this together, when executives describe what they actually want from a status report, in their own words, it comes down to a short list. Outcomes, not activity. Just tell them on track or not, the big picture and the impact, not the underlying tasks. No surprises. So if something serious happens, that's an immediate escalation and not something that waits for next month's report. And if you're bringing them a problem, bring a recommendation with it. Don't just hand them raw options and walk away. That reads as someone who isn't in command of the situation. And finally, back to the watermelon. Every one of these failures has the exact same shape. A report built around what the project manager wants to show instead of what the reader needs to know. If you fix that one thing, then basically everything else follows naturally. In the comments, tell me if you've ever seen a watermelon project blow up in real life. I want to hear the story. Thanks for listening and learning. See you in the next one.